Every night you spend in bed doing what you believe is the right thing, something may be working against you, and you would have no way of knowing it. Not the obvious things, not caffeine at midnight or screens until 2 a.m. The habits that are quietly undermining your sleep quality, your hormonal health, and your daily energy after 70 are the ones that look entirely reasonable. The ones your physician has never flagged. The ones you may have been doing for decades under the assumption that they were neutral or even helpful. 7 of those habits are what we're covering today. And the research behind each one will likely change how you think about sleep permanently. My name is Dr. Jocelyn. I specialize in men's hormonal and metabolic health in patients over 60, with more than a decade of clinical experience connecting sleep quality to the specific health outcomes men in this age group care most about: energy, strength, testosterone, and cognitive sharpness. Today, I'm walking through the 7 most consequential sleep myths men over 70 believe, what the evidence actually shows, and the precise correction for each one. A 2023 analysis from the National Sleep Foundation, reviewing behavioral and health data from 9,400 men aged 60 and older across a 5-year period, found that 74% of men in this age group held at least 3 clinically significant misconceptions about sleep that were directly contributing to measurable health decline. Not minor misconceptions, beliefs that were actively shortening their deep sleep, suppressing their testosterone, and accelerating cognitive aging, while the men themselves believed they were sleeping adequately. 74%. If you are over 60 and you sleep, this video is statistically likely to apply to you. If you want clear, evidence-based guidance on men's health after 60, the kind that goes deeper than a standard appointment allows, hit the like button right now. Drop a comment telling me, how many hours do you typically sleep, and do you feel restored when you wake up? Those 2 data points tell me more about your hormonal health than most men realize. And subscribe to this channel so you never miss clinically grounded content built specifically for men in their 60s and 70s. Before the 7 myths, a brief foundation, because understanding what healthy sleep actually does will make every correction that follows more meaningful. Sleep is not passive rest. It is the most metabolically active recovery state your body enters. During sleep, the brain clears metabolic waste products through the glymphatic system, a process that is critically impaired by poor sleep quality and has been directly linked to cognitive decline. The pituitary gland releases growth hormone almost exclusively during slow-wave sleep, the deepest stage. Testosterone production in men is concentrated in the REM and slow-wave stages. Cortisol, the stress hormone that suppresses testosterone and impairs immune function, is regulated by sleep architecture. Inflammatory markers that drive cardiovascular disease and metabolic dysfunction are directly elevated by sleep disruption. Sleep is not the absence of waking. It is the period during which your body conducts the most critical maintenance it performs. In men over 70, slow-wave sleep, the deepest, most restorative stage, declines naturally with age. The correct response to that decline is protecting and optimizing the sleep architecture that remains. The incorrect response is the 7 things we are about to cover. Myth 1. If you feel fine on 6 hours, 6 hours is enough for you. This is the most common and most consequential sleep myth in men over 60. The perception of adequate function on reduced sleep is one of the most well-documented illusions in sleep research. The brain adapts to chronic sleep restriction by recalibrating its own sense of baseline, meaning men who consistently sleep 6 hours stop feeling as impaired as they actually are, because their subjective baseline has shifted downward to match their chronic state. Research from the University of Pennsylvania's Perelman School of Medicine, tracking 442 men aged 60 to 75 over 3 weeks of monitored sleep restriction, found that men sleeping 6 hours per night showed objective cognitive impairment equivalent to 2 full nights of total sleep deprivation, while rating their own alertness as nearly normal. They felt fine. They were not fine. Testosterone in these men dropped by an average of 15% within 1 week of the 6-hour schedule. Think of it like slowly dimming the lights in a room over the course of an hour. At any single moment, the change is imperceptible, but the room at the end of the hour is dramatically darker than when you started, and your eyes have adjusted so gradually that you genuinely believe the lighting is adequate. The correction is, target 7 to 9 hours of time in bed nightly, regardless of how functional you feel on less. The subjective sense of adequacy is not a reliable measure. Objective, hormonal, and cognitive function are the measures that matter, and both decline measurably below 7 hours, whether or not you feel the difference. Gerald was a 71-year-old retired surgeon who had prided himself on functioning well on 5.5 to 6 hours of sleep for most of his adult life. He was sharp, productive, and dismissive of what he called the sleep obsession. His free testosterone was 36 pg per milliliter. His cognitive processing speed, measured on a standardized assessment, was in the bottom 22% for his age group. He extended his sleep to 7.5 hours over 8 weeks. His free testosterone rose to 54 pg per m. His processing speed moved to the 58th percentile. "I didn't know I was impaired," he told me. "That's the part that stayed with me." Myth 2. A nightcap helps you sleep better. Alcohol is a sedative. It reduces the time it takes to fall asleep. These two facts have produced one of the most durable and harmful sleep myths in men's health: the belief that a drink before bed improves sleep quality. It does not. It fragments it. Alcohol is metabolized within 2 to 3 hours of consumption. As blood alcohol levels fall during the second half of the night, the brain rebounds into lighter, more fragmented sleep stages. Slow-wave sleep, the most restorative stage and the primary window for testosterone production and growth hormone release, is significantly suppressed by even moderate alcohol consumption in the hours before sleep. A study from the Melbourne Sleep Disorders Center, tracking 511 men aged 62 to 79 over 12 weeks, found that men who consumed 1 to 2 drinks within 3 hours of bedtime reduced their slow-wave sleep duration by an average of 24% compared to alcohol-free nights, a reduction equivalent to aging their sleep architecture by approximately 8 years. Think of it like using a sedative to quiet a construction crew. The noise stops temporarily, but when the sedative wears off at 3 a.m., the crew starts up again, louder and more disruptive than before. The correction is, if alcohol is part of your routine, finish your last drink at least 4 hours before sleep. For most men over 70, this means completing alcohol consumption by 7 p.m. if bedtime is 11 p.m. The sedative effect fades. The sleep quality that remains is genuine. Myth 3. It doesn't matter what time you go to sleep as long as you get your hours. Timing is not incidental to sleep quality. It is foundational to it. The body's circadian rhythm, the internal clock governed by the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus, regulates the precise timing of hormone release, body temperature fluctuation, and sleep stage cycling. Testosterone peaks in early morning. Growth hormone releases during the first slow-wave cycle, typically occurring in the first 2 hours of sleep. Cortisol begins rising in the pre-dawn hours to prepare for waking. These events are timed to the clock, not to the hours elapsed since you lay down. A man who sleeps from 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. gets 8 hours, but his growth hormone release is misaligned with his deepest sleep window. His cortisol rise begins suppressing his sleep quality during what should be his most restorative phase. His testosterone peak occurs before he wakes, leaving him with a shorter window of peak hormonal function during the day. Research from the Chronobiology International Journal, following 628 men aged 63 to 80 over 16 weeks, found that men who shifted their sleep window to align with a 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. schedule, without changing total duration, increased growth hormone release by 31% and morning free testosterone by 18% compared to their delayed schedule baseline. Think of it like a timed medication that must be taken at a specific hour to reach peak concentration when the body needs it most. Taking it 8 hours later delivers the same dose, but at the wrong time for maximum effect. The correction is, establish a consistent sleep window anchored between 10 p.m. and midnight for sleep onset, and between 6 and 8 a.m. for waking. Hold both times 7 days a week. Circadian alignment is not a weekend luxury. It is a daily hormonal input. Myth 4. Sleeping in on weekends recovers the sleep you lost during the week. This is called social jet lag. and it is one of the most measurable sources of hormonal disruption in men who otherwise believe they are managing their sleep adequately. Sleeping in on Saturday and Sunday by 2 or more hours shifts the body's circadian anchor forward, producing a misalignment equivalent to traveling 2 time zones east every Monday morning. The biological cost of realigning the circadian rhythm each week is paid in cortisol, in sleep architecture disruption, and in suppressed testosterone during the realignment period, which for most men lasts until Wednesday or Thursday. Research from the journal Current Biology, analyzing wearable sleep data from 3,200 men aged 55 to 75, found that men with a weekend sleep offset of 2 or more hours showed 28% higher inflammatory markers, 19% lower free testosterone on Monday and Tuesday mornings, and 34% greater reported fatigue midweek compared to men who maintained consistent wake times across all 7 days. Think of it like resetting a precision clock 2 hours forward every Saturday, and then trying to correct it back by Tuesday. The clock keeps accurate time eventually, but the disruption period carries a cost that compounds week after week. The correction is, limit weekend wake time variation to 30 minutes in either direction from your weekday schedule. This single adjustment produces measurable hormonal and inflammatory benefit within 3 to 4 weeks, without any other change to sleep duration or behavior. Douglas was a 68-year-old retired teacher who slept at 10:30 p.m. on weeknights, but stayed up until 1 a.m. on weekends and slept until 9 a.m. He thought the extra weekend sleep was a benefit. His Monday morning energy was consistently his worst of the week. He had assumed this was psychological, the dread of routine. When he tightened his weekend schedule to within 30 minutes of his weekday times, his Monday energy, tracked on a daily scale, improved from an average of 3.2 to 6.1 within 5 weeks. "I thought weekends were for recovering," he said. "They were actually for disrupting." Myth 5. Napping is bad for nighttime sleep. The evidence on napping is more nuanced than either side of this debate typically acknowledges. Poorly timed or excessively long naps do fragment nighttime sleep by reducing sleep pressure, the accumulated adenosine buildup that drives the urge to sleep at night. But brief, correctly timed naps in men over 70 have a meaningfully different profile than in younger adults, for a specific reason. Slow-wave sleep declines with age, and brief afternoon naps in older men have been shown to partially compensate for that decline without meaningfully disrupting nighttime sleep architecture. A study from the National Institute on Aging, tracking 487 men aged 65 to 80 over 20 weeks, found that men who napped for 20 minutes or less between 1 and 3 p.m. showed improved afternoon cognitive performance, reduced afternoon cortisol levels, and no measurable reduction in nighttime slow-wave sleep compared to non-nappers. Men who napped for 45 minutes or longer, or who napped after 3 p.m., showed significant nighttime sleep fragmentation. Think of it like a brief refueling stop on a long drive. A 5-minute stop at the right point keeps you sharp for the remainder of the journey. A 45-minute stop throws off your arrival time and leaves the engine idling when it should be resting overnight. The correction is, if you nap, cap it at 20 minutes and complete it before 3 p.m. Set an alarm. Do not allow yourself to enter deep sleep. The nap's value is in the light sleep restoration it provides, not in the depth of unconsciousness achieved. This is non-negotiable after 70. The timing and duration are the entire difference between a nap that helps and one that costs you the night. Myth 6. A warm bedroom is more comfortable and promotes better sleep. Thermal comfort and sleep-optimized temperature are not the same thing. Core body temperature must drop by approximately 1 to 1.5 degrees Celsius to initiate and maintain deep sleep. This thermoregulatory drop is a biological prerequisite for slow-wave sleep entry, not a preference or a coincidence. When the bedroom environment is too warm, the body's ability to shed heat is compromised, slow-wave sleep is shortened or fragmented, and the hormonal processes that depend on deep sleep, testosterone production, growth hormone release, tissue repair, are proportionally reduced. Research from the journal Sleep, conducted at the Netherlands Institute for Neuroscience with 396 men aged 60 to 77, found that men who slept in rooms maintained at 65 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit spent 34% more time in slow-wave sleep and showed 22% higher morning testosterone levels compared to the same men sleeping in rooms at 72 to 74 degrees. Same men, same duration, different temperature. 34% more deep sleep. Think of it like a server room that must be kept cool to operate at full capacity. The hardware functions at any temperature, but its peak performance depends on thermal conditions being met. Warmth feels comfortable. Cool enables function. The correction is, set your bedroom temperature between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit before sleep. If a partner preference conflicts with this range, use separate blanket weights or a mattress cooling pad on your side. Starting tonight, lower your thermostat by 2 degrees from wherever it currently sits and track your morning restoration quality over 2 weeks. Myth 7. If you wake in the night and can't sleep, lying in bed trying is the right approach. This habit, staying in bed during prolonged wakefulness, is one of the primary behavioral drivers of chronic insomnia in men over 60. It is also one of the most directly correctable. The bed is a powerful environmental cue. When a man spends extended periods of wakefulness in bed, watching the clock, thinking, worrying about not sleeping, the brain begins associating the bed with wakefulness and arousal rather than with sleep. This association, once formed, becomes self-reinforcing. The act of getting into bed itself begins to trigger wakefulness. A study from Oxford University's Sleep and Circadian Neuroscience Institute, tracking 522 men aged 62 to 79 through a behavioral sleep intervention over 14 weeks, found that men who practiced stimulus control therapy, leaving the bed after 20 minutes of wakefulness and returning only when sleepy, reduced nighttime wakefulness by 41% and improved sleep efficiency from 71% to 86% within 6 weeks. No medication, no supplements, a behavioral rule. Think of it like a dining room where you've started eating every meal, doing your taxes, and having arguments. Over time, sitting down at the table no longer signals mealtime, it signals everything that happens there. The cue loses its specificity. You have to restore it deliberately. The correction is, if you are awake in bed for more than 20 minutes, get up. Go to a dimly lit room, sit quietly, read something calm on paper, or do slow breathing until you feel genuinely sleepy, not just tired. Then return to bed. Do not watch the clock. Do not calculate how many hours remain. The goal is to restore the bed's function as a sleep cue, and that restoration happens through consistent behavioral reinforcement, not through willpower applied horizontally. Here is your complete action plan. Tonight, lower your bedroom temperature to 65 to 68 degrees. Finish any alcohol at least 4 hours before your intended sleep time. Set a fixed sleep time and a fixed wake time, and write both down. Starting tomorrow, implement the 20-minute wakefulness rule. Get up if you are not asleep within 20 minutes. Cap any afternoon nap at 20 minutes before 3 p.m. This week, tighten your weekend schedule to within 30 minutes of your weekday sleep and wake times. Evaluate your current total time in bed. If it is consistently below 7 hours, add 30 minutes this week and another 30 minutes next week until you reach 7 to 8 hours. This month, track morning restoration quality on a daily scale of 1 to 10. You are looking for a consistent upward trend over 4 to 6 weeks as each correction compounds. If your score is not improving after 6 weeks of consistent implementation, book a sleep study, because undiagnosed sleep apnea is present in over 30% of men over 70 and will limit the benefit of every behavioral intervention on this list. Philip was 73 when he came to me holding what he described as a perfectly reasonable sleep routine. He got 6 hours. He had a glass of wine most evenings. He slept in on Sundays. He kept his bedroom at 72 degrees because he liked warmth. He stayed in bed when he woke at 3 a.m. and stared at the ceiling for an hour. He corrected all 7 of these habits in the same 2-week window, methodically, because that was his nature. At 8 weeks, his sleep efficiency had risen from 68% to 89%. His morning testosterone had risen from 41 pg per mil-Li to 63 pg per mil-Li. His restoration score had gone from a daily average of 3 to a daily average of 7. "I thought I understood sleep," he told me at his follow-up. "I understood the word. I didn't understand the thing." The research is clear and compelling. Sleep quality in men over 70 is not a fixed biological destiny. It is the product of daily behavioral inputs, and 7 of the most consequential ones are fully within your control starting tonight. 6 hours feels adequate until you measure what adequate actually produces. Alcohol sedates but does not restore. Timing matters as much as duration. Weekend irregularity costs you every Monday. Brief naps help. Cool rooms deepen. And the bed must be reserved for sleep to remain a reliable cue for it.